He recently installed the largest EG4 system on a small commercial project.
We're pushing the boundaries in rural America, showing what's possible with solar plus storage out in the country. And we say, hey, can we fill up your entire roof with solar and install this massive battery power plant for you and combine some incentives that make it very low cost.
And we can provide from an EG4 standpoint, and that storage, the low cost option, and just getting that power out to those peoples that out in the rural areas, the small farmers, the landowners, the ranchers, things like that.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Grid Gone Wild. I'm here with Mr. Chad Bodmer, and I'm Nathan Under. We're here with Chris from OVA NOA. Chris is a master electrician. He actually just recently did the largest scale solar installation of EG4 products on a small commercial project that he was doing. Chris, you want to give us a little bit about yourself and how that project went?
Sure. Howdy, I'm Chris. I'm a science fair kid from Virginia, turned biomedical engineer, turned master electrician. And recently, what I've been working on is transforming the trades, especially in rural areas. And so this specific install brought a team of young, fairly untrained humans who are all prospects to be future project leads, future project managers. And we're pushing the boundaries in rural America, showing what's possible with solar plus storage. Out in the country, the big solar fields tend to have a problematic association with farmers who really value the land. But we reach a unique audience because we work with these rural and agricultural clients. And we say, hey, can we fill up your entire roof with solar and install this massive battery power plant for you and combine some incentives that make it very low cost? And we work in areas that other people don't tend to get to touch with solar. We're very rural, very red in who we get to touch, and it's been a delightful journey.
That's pretty awesome. And, growing up on a small farm myself, I understand, and, OVA NOVA's mission is close to me and, what we can provide from an EG4 standpoint, and, that storage, the low cost option, and just getting that power out to those peoples that out in the rural areas, the small farmers, the, landowners, the ranchers, things like that, and help them really have a more sustainable life and impact when they're, talking about their cost of operating that farm.
And it's about security and ultimately American energy dominance. It's not, it's super awesome that it's done sustainably, it's done locally, it's done with an infinitely generated resource as far as, not infinite, but infinite as far as we've got currently ways to utilize it. But it's also about security and power and safety. And so you have all these rural communities with these little electrical cooperatives who have to handle all of the challenges of integrating renewables with a legacy built in the 60s grid structure. And we, just like you guys, see batteries as the way to bridge that gap and allow for these little pockets of resiliency where what was once a 100-year-old cotton gin is now a solar and battery power plant, and also can still be a cotton gin.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. A little bit more about, your background. You said you're a master electrician, got into solar, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago. So, you are really at the, I would say the prime peak of solar innovation. I would say more has happened over the past 5 years than in the past 10 years, 15 years when it comes to equipment, battery storage, and different things on the market. Without diving into a lot of the different equipment that you've installed, like brand-wise, but how many different types of inverters, batteries have you personally installed?
Somewhere in the 10 to 20s. I think when you talk about this rack-mounted LFP battery versus this rack-mounted LFP battery, it doesn't really matter if you've installed 1 or 2 or 30. But I have enough of an experience with residential and small-scale commercial inverters and battery infrastructures.
Awesome. Hey, I do want to get into a little bit about this project you just completed out there in Tennessee. And my understanding is it was 9 inverters, right, with 27 batteries. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And what was your install time for something like that? Was that like a one-day project for you guys? Or?
It depends on how much you account for the 100 years of farmers that have done work that's really strong in the find a way attribute, but a little bit less strong in the up to National Electric Code attribute.
Definitely understandable. I have a few things on my own farm that's probably not 100% up to code, so I know exactly where you're coming from with that.
And so for us, I told the guys we'll be here 4 weeks, no problem, in and out. And if we wouldn't have hit a bunch of roadblocks with the currently existing infrastructure and the rectifications and the uninstall or reinstall, I think that would be fairly accurate. But that's also encompassing a couple projects. So this one specific project, I would say, would take the team 3 weeks if we were given a blank slate. And as is, it was about a 5-week project.
Okay. That's not terrible.
Especially for that size and magnitude of that project, because, like you said, that infrastructure had to be upgraded and prepared for what they were getting ready to do. And, the equipment they installed was 9 18K inverters and 27 outdoor wall mount batteries.
Now, I guess the caveat to that question is how many people were on the team?
I'd say an average of 5.
Okay. So at any one given time, 5, 6 people?
5-ish. Yeah, I would say, because we've had teammates that could only join for part of the install and then left, and then other teammates that could join for the second half, and a couple local that have split here and there. But I would say 5 is a good average.
Was this your first experience with EG4 products?
Nope.
So you've installed them prior to this large scale installation?
Yeah, we had. So we used to buy and work with the Lux 12K inverter.
Okay.
Which shares a similar architecture to the EG4 18K PV. And so we had been buying direct from Lux historically. When Zach first reached out to us about EG4, we another white labeler. We don't want to have this conversation. And then he reached out again. Eventually, James flew to North Carolina to meet John, our CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And after that meeting, we're like, okay, it's not a Lux 12K. It's something different. It's something better. So that was where that relationship started. And so on projects before this, we have used the EG4 18K PV inverter to replace Luxes as they malfunction. And we had also worked with the Live Power 4 rack mount style batteries, but not super extensively, but the Lux gave us a good base expectation set for what to understand for how the controls worked.
Gotcha. And what was your first impression of the 18K, the outdoor battery, and we'll talk about it just from not only from the capabilities that it has, but the ease of installation from the wiring, the space it has, things like that.
Yeah, I got it, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna fit where I just put my Lux, because it is significantly taller. And have you guys touched the old Lux?
I personally haven't. No.
Original one. You guys have I think you call it a PV gland at the bottom, and it's 8-10 inches.
Yes.
Yep.
For your wire space at your terminals. And the old Lux, same at 50 amp inverter, 200 amp pass through, and it's got 2-3 inches. And so that was the first thing I noticed was, oh wow, they must have talked to installers when creating this, because it went from bending 3/0 in a tiny little space.
Right.
It really was a struggle. To, oh wow, this is something that goes together in a way that is really clear that people have put a few of these in. So that was the first thing that I noticed, along with a couple other upgrades that made it really installer friendly.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into that small space, right, you start infringing on the bend radius of 3/0 and 3/0 cable, right? So I think that's probably what drove that expansion was the ease of installation and really helping guys be able to bend larger cable.
Well, yeah, it was conversations that we've had with other installers and feedback, and that's how it it drives the research and development on all of our products. We get that input from companies like OVA NOA, and we say, hey, this is an opportunity for us to make our product better.
Yeah, no longer have to measure how girthy your electrician's forearms are before you sell them one.
There's enough room to get their hands in there.
Interesting. Chris, what was your first impression of the project, and what kind of challenges did you think you were going to face coming into such a large scale project on an older electrical system?
Yeah, so this is a project I've laid eyes on before, and the thing that I did that I would do differently next time is assuming that I could just do the thing that I came here to do, and then while that's rolling, parallel process the upgrading and the retrofitting and compliancing of the existing infrastructure. So when I first got on site, it was pretty much like, oh, okay, here's how much wall space I need. I've got that, no problem. I'll reroute these couple of disconnects, etc. And as the project unfolded, it just became really abundantly clear that the best first step would have been to say, all right, Josh, the property owner, Liberty Hill Farms, what circuits do you guys use? Do you guys use that? 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 Does that need to be there? Can that be there? And just approach it from a perspective of, because it's such a big project, the amount of undoing and redoing would have been a lot simpler if we would have started with a semi-blank slate and really just added in what the business needed. And a lot of times you had things like you're stepping it from 480 down to 240, and that feeds a 200 amp panel, but you got 15 amp fuses in your 480 volt disconnect. And it's like, so you have 30 amps there. Is that, you guys want 30 amps there? You guys want something different that would also avoid me having to reroute all of this existing thing. So it was just an underestimation of just how find a way these farmers had been, which is really awesome that people can perform electrical work and it works and there's operational machines there. But I would say I underestimated how much undoing and redoing would be required with a project like this. So my initial perspective was no problem at all. And we ran into some problems, but we solved them.
So with that being said, what would you have done different to mitigate those risks coming into that project? Would you have done maybe a pre-site visit where you could have met with the property owner and walked through those steps?
Yeah, what I did was I made sure that whatever was currently served with a certain service could in the future also be served by a certain service. And so the example of that would be what you had before was 6 services from the utility, all feeding various disconnects of various different amperages, all 480 volt. And what that created was a scenario where instead I'm going to feed all of these loads from one main distribution panel, 400 amp, 480 volt, fed through some step-up transformers because the Lux obviously operates 12208 when it's in 3-phase. And so I planned on adding breakers to this main service panel and feeding those to the existing services.
Sure.
And what I didn't realize is that I'm on this outside wall and I've got my distribution panel here and I'm feeding a disconnect that's all the way in the back here. And that disconnect actually feeds a button that's here. And then the button feeds a contactor that's there. And then that contactor finally feeds your machine that's just right over there. And so I've got my service here and my machine there, but I've got a bunch of wiring that's existed for 60 years that goes all over the place. And so that would have been, I would change the wall layout slightly to account for the fact that the person that did this in the past changed what machines this disconnect fed, and they were going to undo and redo all of this work. They were going to run an additional line. Awesome. But I was going to reroute that disconnect anyways, so I might as well have rerouted the rest of it and just had a more cohesive set of disconnects and motor starts just in the same spot and not have jumping back.
Have them centrally located to make it a little easier on your runs.
So you mentioned something about layout, and layout is extremely important, especially on a large project like this. You know, you walk into a space and you have 9 inverters, 27 batteries. You know, walk us through the thought process and the steps that goes into how do we get all this equipment on this wall, in this location, etc.
Yeah, the biggest questions that I had were associated with how I wanted my 800 amp 208 volt 3-phase disconnects into my 300 kVA 480 to 208 step up transformers to go. because originally I had all this equipment located on this outside wall, and the thing that changed was putting the transformers inside the building instead of outside, because they do some like pellet creation, which creates some fine dust, and those transformers, dry type transformers, are a little bit too open for that specifically. So that was the something that threw me for a little bit of a curveball, was like, oh, I'm not put these transformers inside because I really don't think I should have them outside next to what is this dust source that's just a ways down there. But overall, you've got, at this point in the project, you've got the boxes that need to go on the wall. You've got the wires that need to feed each boxes. You know which size conduit should feed from A to B because you know what wires will be there. The questions that I had were associated with the troughs. EG4 made us this custom trough. Do you guys see those custom troughs?
Yes.
And so there's a front and a back. And so figuring out that's a lot of possibility for things to go wrong when you're talking about 9 inverters, 3-phase, load and grid side. And so what we ended up doing was not routing all of the wires through the troughs, but going ahead and taking all of the load wires up and over behind the inverters and into the troughs. So, it was just a bunch of boxes, and we knew what size the boxes were. We knew what spacing they needed. We knew what conduits they needed to be fed from. So mostly was just iterations of sketching.
Just laying it out, just going through the process of pulling tape measures, marking on walls, and doing the legwork, right? And then kind of stepping back, you said we designed a specific product for this particular install, which is, we're constantly innovating and coming up with ideas to help our customers and companies like OVA NOA to the best of our abilities. There's a lot of companies that wouldn't take the time to understand what the need is for a specific project and design a piece of equipment for that product to make sure that it's successful.
Yeah, that was a really cool experience. And we're not done with that product. And we're not done with OVA NOA, EG4 OVA NOA collaborations in that realm. The thing that was really nice is that product, we were given a definite time frame because we've got a construction schedule to keep, and being able to accommodate that with something that ended up installing well, we feel like it was a quality product, was really nice. The unique situation that we find ourselves in is we end up in a lot of shops that have a bunch of wall space, but there's a difference between, you've got a 22-inch wide battery that needs 12 inches of space on the side, and you need 27 of those, versus you need whatever half of that is 14 because you got one by itself. And so we just wouldn't have been able to fit this specific product into this specific location if we weren't able to double up those batteries front to back.
Sure. Yep.
Which is only possible with guys, we need a trough, and we need a way to get that trough connected to this trough. And it all happened in a way where by the time we needed the trough, it was there waiting for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of pride ourselves on, because we have that in-house research and development technical teams. OVA NOA came out to the EG4 facility. They walked to research and development and said, hey, this is what we need for this project. And everybody's like, okay, cool, we'll build it. And certain companies just don't have the capacity to do that.
They said, oh, do you mean like this? And then they picked up the batteries and they shoved them. And then I was like, no, what about like this? And then they moved the batteries and mocked something up while we were standing there, which I thought was really cool.
That's awesome.
So have you been out to the EG4's facility in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we missed them.
Yeah, we must have missed you. That is unfortunate.
They tend to set me up with the engineers and technical guys. When you guys technical guys, you guys media guys.
Well, we can get into our background a little bit. Little on me, right? I live in Arizona currently. This is my 11th year in solar. I basically started in warehousing and just worked myself into a training role, became a certified or licensed electrician in the state of Arizona. And then been in training, I think this is my 6th year as an install trainer. And Chad, I'll let you speak to your experience.
Very similar experience. I actually live in South Carolina. Been in the solar industry for 12 years, done industrial, commercial, utility scale, residential, ran installation teams, quality teams, training teams, and licensed electrician. So we have a plethora of solar experience, and we're just kind of helping out the media team to gather the information and knowledge, and kind of pass that torch back and forth to different companies. So Chris, earlier you mentioned about you come into a rural area like this project, and the local community is impacted. You find local electricians to bring in on the project to get their knowledge up and really have that solar experience and push knowledge onto people that maybe don't have the opportunity to get that experience or that knowledge. And I want, if you can talk about like that relationship and how does it impact the people that are living in that community, and what are the opportunities for them when OVA NOVA, comes into a place like that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. This project, it was made possible by the United States Department of Agriculture's Rural Energy for America program. And the reason that we know Josh Dowdy is that one of OVA NOVA's co-founders, Lester Crafton, grew up with him, and this is his hometown. And so it's like a hometown revival tour. And we reach people in a couple different ways. We've now made the process so simple that we have a web app that people can fill out at ovanova.co and get a design and explore the incentives. And so what's possible in these rural areas, and the reason why it's such a opportunity to create these pockets of resiliency, is that REAP grant covers half the project cost, and you still get tax credits on top of that. So you end up with a very steeply discounted project. And so someone like Josh Dowdy, who might not ever have explored solar, gets I don't know what his specific discount is, but these are 80, 90%, where these battery power plants get to set us up for a future where Chickasaw Electric Cooperative sees these 375 kVA banked transformers on a pole and says, "Hey Josh, I would love some of that energy right now. It's really hard for me to get energy right now. Could I buy some energy from you?" And Josh would say, "Yeah, no problem. I've been farming the sun all day. It's all stored up for you. Here you go." And so that's where we see it, is this kind of weird shift where rural America actually catalyzes the energy transition, because the board of Chickasaw is going to be able to make this decision a lot faster than Duke Energy. And so you've got the local cooperative that stands to benefit by having a power plant on a 3-phase power line, and then a bunch of other smaller ones in an area, because once you have the solar installed at the old Laconia Gym, that people drive by, they see it, and they want to know about it. And so we built the process for wanting to know about it to be very simple. And one of the things that helps us on the execution end of things, like I'm from North Carolina. My whole team is like project managers that are from North Carolina, California, like all over the place. But we've coalesced Michigan, we've coalesced in West Tennessee. And if that was us every single install, then we would be able to not do that many installs in a year. And so whenever we go to an area, we'll find a local electrician outfit that is probably hadn't ever touched solar before, but willing to learn, eager, crewed up in a way where they have the capacity. And so that's a recognition is, it's 2024. If I'm an electrician, I should be exploring this type of electricity. And so we get a really positive reaction pretty much every single time we're in a rural area. We work with a local contractor, and we work with them in a way where when we're complete with the project, they've been involved enough where they get to do the next one. They might need a project manager on site. And so that's how we see this complete cycle. It's like these Rural Energy for America program funds are designed for a community like Somerville, Tennessee, to rebuild from what is 30 years of neglect as people move to the cities for more opportunity. But now we've got high-speed fiber internet right here. Now we've got like real connectivity, and we get to create a future out here where those resources for these projects stay with the local installers, and they stay with equipment manufacturers that are committed to like building it in the US. And that's something that we bring to the equation that we think is value add. That answer your question?
It definitely does. Yeah, you nailed it. And, with Nathan and I's experience with heavily training, like that's where we spent probably the last 5 to 7 years in the solar industry is training installers, electricians, roof leads, foremen, anything and everything that has to do with the solar industry, because that's why we got into training. We understood that there was a need for it and the lack of knowledge and experience in the industry, and we wanted to leverage our experience and to help the people that we could help. And it's great that OVA NOA is kind of taking that responsibility on and trying to expand people's knowledge and experience to give them that opportunity for additional work, a different life. The possibilities are endless, and I think that it would be great if EG4 and OVA NOA can partner on some of these trainings, and we can come out there and help you and work with you on develop these electricians to become not only, we'll call them certified solar electricians, but certified solar EG4 preferred installers. I think that would be a very cool opportunity to kind of work down that line.
We call them power plant installers, and it really reframes you for what they're doing. They're not.
I like it.
Glass, solar. They're putting up a power plant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one thing I really enjoyed about our conversation with Chris and kind of what OVA NOA is doing is allowing local community members, that live in these rural areas that may not have the opportunity to go out and learn solar, is you guys are providing that service to them. You're not just paying them, right? You're also giving them an education and driving the industry. So my hat's off to you guys, man. You guys at OVA NOA are killing it. And I want to thank you for spending some time with us today.
Well, we're not quite done yet, because we want to know what's next for OVA NOA. What projects are on their horizon? Are we doing bigger? Are we doing better? Or what can we expect?
The one thing that you could always expect from OVA NOA is to add another thing that we're doing. Our mission isn't even related to energy or solar at all. It's to add as much value as possible to as many lives as possible, which is the common thread that wraps around, like, why do we care about making sure that the OVA NOA installers are set up and supported and healthy and et cetera? Why do we care about local contractors learning solar? It's not so that we can do more business, but that is a nice side effect. It's because our goal is to add value to human lives, and we think that energy right now is the biggest way we can do that. And we are continuing down this path of building these power plants in these rural areas. So the very next project that we have is Smith's Grocery down in Alpha, Florida. That's also 3-phase. That's 15 EG4 18Ks. That's going in what we're creating, and we're calling it energy shed. And so it's actually, this one might not have it, but we're setting a Chico carport, which Signature Solar sells, on top of a 40-foot Connex container, shipping container, 8 feet tall. And so what you have is the capacity for 5 inverters on sort of the inside back wall, and then 4 or 5 inverters, depending on how many batteries you have on the inside wall. And then you have this beautiful, covered, shaded structure that you then get to put 5 more inverters, all of your disconnects, things like that. And so that would be the base template for these projects. And we are just in the queue waiting for the USDA to review these projects, because there are communities all across, I don't know how many states we've submitted grant applications for, but it's over 100 projects at this point.
Wow.
And so you chicken farmers, you've got all kinds of different businesses. And the more Lego brick-like we can get the end product, whether that's a 40-foot shipping container that's an energy shed that gets dropped down, and maybe it's half pre-wired, then
I was going to say, if you did the shipping container, you could definitely do a lot of the legwork before you even get on site, which would really save you guys a lot of time out there and be a lot more efficient in the end process.
Yeah, exactly. And it lets the local electricians learn more. So right now we're just waiting on the USDA to choose to make other communities like the one in Somerville, where we get to work with a local, train them up, build a power plant that we think will be really juicy to the local electric cooperative.
Awesome. Hey, Chris, do me a favor. When you guys start getting these grants approved and you guys are ready to go start installing, reach out, man. We'd love to come out there and spend some time with OVA NOA and really get to know you guys more on a personal level, and maybe even get our hands dirty with it, pair of wiring cutters.
Yeah, well, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and talking about the project and, you know, who OVA NOA is, you know, and what they really mean and how they can help the rural communities out there in America. And, you know, I just want to say thank you. We appreciate your time. You know, I know you're currently out on a project and you took some time away from your team to come talk to us, and we really appreciate that. And like I said, I just want to thank you for that time, and hopefully we will talk to you again very soon.
Yeah, of course. They say the most likely thing that makes you go solar is if your neighbor goes solar and they had a good experience. So I like being involved in all of the solar communications, and thank you for signing up to make sure that people know how to install solar, because my mom doesn't even know an electrician to call, much less who she would call for solar electricians. So if there's not even enough electricians, then I think we've all chosen a fantastic way to add value, because we get to build solar installers, which is kind of a unique creature that can scurry up around on a roof. And
it's a new trade. It's a new craft.
Yeah, if somebody wants to join the OVA NOA team, reach out.
Absolutely.
If I know anybody, I'll send them out to you, bud.